One of the most beautifully shot films of the 21st century, The Revenant, is perhaps most notable because it was the film that finally won Leonardo DiCaprio his well-deserved Oscar for Best Actor. Of course, this Alejandro G. Iñárritu-directed Western thriller is so much more than that. Based on the real-life story of fur trapper Hugh Glass, The Revenant chronicles the frontiersman's journey across the snow-covered Dakotas after being mauled by a bear. The film itself is brutal and unwavering in its portrayal of the harshness of frontier living. Yet the real story is even more intense than what we only saw simulated on the screen. Here's what really happened to Hugh Glass all those years ago. Hugh Glass was a mountain man through and through. There's a lot we don't know about Hugh Glass, but there's also a lot we do. The man's infamous grizzly encounter was first described in an 1825 publication called The Portfolio, under the title Letters from the West, number 14, The Missouri Trapper. The events of his life before that day wouldn't be described in detail until George C. Yunt's account was published in 1925, called The Adventures of Hugh Glass. From what we can tell, Hugh Glass was everything from a sailor to a pirate to an adopted member of the Wolf Pawnee tribe. As explored in The Revenant, he may have even taken a Pawnee woman as his wife. According to some stories, Glass killed a grizzly during his time with the Pawnee and was awarded the name Takakuruks, which translates to white bear or grizzly, for his triumph, though it's unclear if this is history or legend. Nevertheless, the fact remains that Glass lived with the Pawnee people for a considerable amount of time. But all that changed when an advertisement for enterprising young men appeared in the Missouri Gazette and Public Advertiser and other Midwestern newspapers in 1822. General William Henry Ashley was looking for men to travel west with him via the Missouri River, and evidently, Glass was interested. By the summer of 1823, he had joined a fur trapping expedition. Despite being over 40 years of age, Glass, known by his nickname Old Hugh, was a valued member of Ashley's Hundred, a group later known as the Rocky Mountain Fur Company. Others in the group included Andrew Henry, Jedediah Smith, Jim Beckworth, Jim Bridger, and John S. Fitzgerald. While on their journey, the group was attacked by a band of Arikara Indians after Ashley first traded with them, as portrayed in the opening of The Revenant. "We traded with them as friends," Glass wrote in a letter when informing the parents of John Gardiner that their son had been killed. "But after a great storm of rain and thunder, they came at us before light, and many were hurt. I myself was shot in the leg." While The Revenant features Glass's son Hawk, Forrest Goodluck, as a member of the expedition, his death being the primary reason for his course of revenge, no such son actually existed. We noted that some believe Glass was married to a Pawnee woman, but we don't know if he had any children. If he did, they certainly wouldn't be the age Hawk is in the film, since he was only with the Pawnee for a few years. Following the Arikara attack, it wasn't long before Glass encountered the infamous grizzly bear that nearly killed him. Deeming the Missouri no longer safe, the Museum of the Mountain Man, based in Pinedale, Wyoming, notes that the party split in two, with one group headed west following the White and Cheyenne rivers, and the other, led by Andrew Henry, traveling northwest toward Fort Henry. The Revenant only touched on Hugh Glass's perilous grizzly attack and his trek through the wild frontier. "He was quite a character," said Jay Buckley, a Brigham Young University professor, when asked about the event. "We don't know a ton about that era, but we wouldn't know anything about Hugh Glass if he hadn't been attacked by a bear." No doubt, it's the bear story that made Glass famous and directly inspired both The Revenant and the 1971 motion picture Man in the Wilderness. Sometimes in either arise, discovering that the man had retreated to Fort Atkinson, Glass arrived hoping to enact his revenge but was unable to, on account that Fitzgerald had joined the U.S. Army and was, therefore, a government employee free from Glass's reach. No, that end fight between Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy didn't happen in real life. The actual Glass was enraged, unable to take his revenge, but he told his story to Fitzgerald's superiors, who graciously returned Glass his gun. Glass was satisfied with that, though disappointed he couldn't use the said rifle on his enemy. The frontiersman continued as a fur trapper for nearly another decade before he was killed on the job by a band of Arikara Indians in 1833, thus ending the legend of Hugh Glass. Hugh Glass's tale became mythologized, leading to the Revenant. While some swear by the earliest accounts of Hugh Glass's mountainous adventures, not everyone is convinced that they accurately represent the reality of the mountain man. I don't know if they were that worried about the distinction between fact and fiction back then, noted Notre Dame University professor John T. Coleman, who is somewhat skeptical of the tale. I think it was a great story, and it cohered with an American vision of the West. Through this encounter with wild nature, men's bodies were changed and became something else. They were no longer European or British, they were American. It's no wonder that Glass's story has been retold again and again on film, television, and other visual mediums as well. In 1915, The Song of Hugh Glass by John G. Neihart was the first to mythologize Glass's grisly encounter, though it wasn't the last. Frederick Manfred's 1954 biographical novel Lord Grizzly expanded on the tale, ultimately acting as the precursor to Michael Punk's 2002 novel The Revenant, A Story of Revenge, which served as the literary basis for the impressive Leonardo DiCaprio film. Actor John Alderson played the part of Glass in the 1966 Death Valley Days episode Hugh Glass Meets the Bear, and even the song 6 Weeks by the indie folk rock group of Monsters and Men is about the tale. Most recently, the 2024 INSP series The Tall Tales of Jim Bridger recounts the events of Glass's mauling and abandoning from the perspective of Jim Bridger, played by Rib Hillis in the episode Shards of Glass. Of course, The Revenant is by far the most famous adaptation of these events and masterfully perpetuates the mythic tale of Hugh Glass today. It may be a phenomenal film, but it's not the most historically accurate. Thank you for watching. Help the channel grow by liking, commenting, and subscribing.